And we're just going to pretend that last 5 seconds didn't happen. There we go, we are live. Thank you for joining us. This is Transfer Talk. We're going to be doing this every single Friday at 12 o'clock for as long as I decide we're going to be doing it for. So thank you guys for joining us. Yeah, you knew there was going to be no sound. You knew this is how it goes down. We're going to be talking about Sandro. We're going to be talking about Alderweireld. We're going to be talking about Bale, Milinkovic Savic, Fred. We're going to be talking about Zidane resigning. We're going to be talking about Ronaldo buying Valladolid. These are all the different things that we are going to be doing. And we are in the mixer. There's still no audio? It is working. I can see it's working. You lot with your damn comments. Right, so let's talk about the first thing we're going to be talking about. So we are talking about Fred. Now, he was selected by Type for Brazil's World Cup squad. He was selected ahead of Fabinho, which is probably going to cause a bit of argument and all sorts of different comparisons coming out over the next couple of weeks as the World Cup starts to kick in. There's a rumour of a £50 million asking fee from Shakhtar. There was all sorts of talk last week that there was a €50 million that had been agreed. It could be the mobile, sort of press-resistant midfielder that Manchester United are really looking for. He's small, he's aggressive, but don't get him twisted. This is like a Kante-esque kind of midfielder. He's well better on the ball. I would argue he's probably not as good defensively, but going forward, this is the man that you really want to be seeing making things happen for United. I think he's an entirely different footballer to Milinkovic Savic, and we'll talk about that when we talk about Milinkovic Savic. So, do I believe the reports? Yes, I do. I think it's very close. I think it's lining up like this is going to be a deal that happens for Manchester United. I think there's going to be this transfer happen, but I'm not 100% sure that it's Savic and Fred that United are going for unless someone like Pogba moves on because of the fees that are involved. I think it might be a case of Morata and Lukaku where they're not quite the same player, but they're players that might fill a similar sort of role, and I think that's what we're looking at there with Fred and with Milinkovic Savic. So I think Fred's going to come in. Where do I think he fits in the squad? I think Fred fits in literally as a number 8. And I put him alongside Paul Pogba, but he's given. If you think of them as, you've got Matic that sits in deep, you've got Pogba that sits up quite high and deals with stuff in the final third. Fred could be the link between the two. So when you're pressing a team, when you're trying to put a team under pressure, he's the guy that's helping drive runs in. Now, he's not got the passing ability of somebody like a Kroos or a Modric or even a Milinkovic Savic, but he's got a better work rate and he's just got that pure tempo and energy. United's quite a slow midfield, and I think that's something that we really need. And that's why I want to see Fred in a United shirt. I think Fred, I think his stats, as you can see up here now, his stats are pretty good for what he's done. But he's at Shakhtar, and a lot of the data that we can get on him is only from the Champions League, which is a really small sample size. Is he good enough to make the step into the Premier League? We'll only know by finding out. But I think what you're going to see with him over the World Cup is a guy that runs and a guy that drives, and he is the tempo of a football team. Right, the next one that we are going to be talking about then is Toby Alderweireld. Now, Alderweireld, I think he's one of the best centre-halves in the Premier League. Proven Premier League defender. He's going to add composure to United's backline. I think he slots in just perfect, right alongside Bayer, and makes Manchester United's backline strong, and that is what we desperately need. Someone who's a leader. I'm not asked that he's nearly 30. I'm not asked that he's older. I think that's a perfect sort of age for allowing some of the youngers like Tuanzebe and possibly Fosu Mensah to draft in right behind him and become players themselves. I'm going to come to the comments as well after each of these and see what you guys are saying. He lost his place in the Spurs starting 11, Toby Alderweireld, because of the contract dispute, and Davinson Sanchez was stepped up and did a pretty able job. But I think Alderweireld and Vertonghen is the best partnership in terms of pure centre-halves in the Premier League. And if we can take one of those, I think we could take that title with Bayer if he's able to play a full campaign and Alderweireld playing alongside each other. There's talk that Daniel Levy wants around about 75 million. Of course he does. No matter what a player's worth, Daniel Levy wants more, and he usually gets more as well. He's usually pretty good at managing to get that over the line. He's going to cost in excess of 50 million. Is he worth it? Yeah, I'm going to say he is. I'm going to say he is. Because of the Premier League experience and because that we already know what we're getting, and it's a player that's well adjusted to this division already, I think he's absolutely worth it for us to go and get him. Right, what are you guys saying in the comments there? Talk to me about Alderweireld, talk to me about Fred, and we'll be talking about Sandro in a second. So Jacob says, I think we should wait with signing a centre-back. Maybe Lindelof will have a breakout performance in the World Cup. It's not a bad shout. I'm not sure that Sweden are the team that's going to do anything, to be honest. I also think we need backup regardless. I think we're going to get rid of one of Smalling or Jones. But I think we still need another centre half, and I think we definitely need someone with experience and someone who's a little bit of a leader. Akshay says, Toby Alderweireld is class. Even for 35 games, he would make the difference. Bingo. This setup is brilliant. Thank you, Jordan. We've worked very hard on that this week. Me and all the interns that we've got over here as well. So I'm glad that you guys are enjoying it. This is hopefully the sort of level of show that we're able to bring with you guys. Scott says we need a creative midfielder. Evandred says Toby is too expensive. JTR says better than Sky Sports, obviously. Thank you. Bilal says Alderweireld is perfect, but his injury record worries me. Yeah, I mean, we don't want to be signing more injury-prone players, and we're definitely going to be getting onto a big one of those in a minute in Gareth Bale. We need a left-back. We'll be talking about that in the very next one as well. So let's talk about that one then. So we're going to be talking about Alexandro. This is a young man that I am pretty hot on. Is he the best left-back in the world? I don't think so. I don't think he's probably top 5 left-backs in the world. But is he better than Ashley Young and the guy that we're not allowed to play or even talk about in Luke Shaw? I absolutely think he is. As you can see below, like Roberto Carlos has got some big things to say on him. A lot of people think Roberto Carlos greatest left-back of all time. I disagree. I think it's Maldini. That's how I prefer to have my left-backs. But Roberto Carlos was a mega attacking fullback, and that's what the modern-day fullback has sort of become. It's become the guy that provides the width more than the wingers used to. So I think a player like a Sandro coming to United, you know, he's in his peak at the moment. He's 27 years of age. He's got the experience that Mourinho often looks for in players. He's got ongoing contract issues, much like Alderweireld, and much like, I mean, a lot of the players that are on this list. Actually, we're not going and cherry picking the very best of players that are loved by their clubs at the moment. We're talking about players that are unhappy, unsettled, and maybe looking for a bit of a fresh start. And Sandro's definitely in that. Asamoah took his place towards the end of the season, and that's not because of ability, it's literally because of his contract dispute. I think he's certainly improved Manchester United. He's an undoubted first choice. And now we could talk about Dalot. Dalot's got to probably come in, and he's probably going to be back up to Valencia as a right back. But Sandro would come in and command a first choice place, no questions asked. He would displace, like, there's no chance Ashley Young gets a game next year unless he's rested or rotating Sandro. There's no way whatsoever. Jacob says, would I like to see both Savic and Shred, I think he means Fred, at United? Jose could play 4-4-2 like he did at Porto. I think he probably could. I think it's probably going to be too much money for us to outlay, because I think a fullback is a massive, massive need for us. I think we've really got to get a fullback in as a priority. And once we get a fullback in as a priority, I think that you'll see the rest of our play sort of develop. Once we can play out from the back, once we can provide width to the team from the fullback area, I think United are going to be a different prospect for people. Very likely transfer he's got a pinpoint cross to. I think we're talking about Sandro there, says James. Yep, that's the one. Pac Mouse, Young is so bad. Why is in the England squad? But here's the problem. England don't really have much better options, and that's why he's obviously going to Russia. James says, absolute baller. Alexandro. Nicholas says, Savic better than Fred. I would tend to agree with you, mate, but I think they're playing in different positions. I think they're going to be potentially used in different roles. I don't think it's the same thing. You know, one player's going to be the same. I don't think it's them two players going for the same position. I think they could play together. I don't think they would be competing for the same roles in the team. Right, the next one that we are going to be talking about then is the big one. It's Gareth Bale. So, Gareth Bale re-emerged on a transfer merry-go-round after the comments that he put out after the Champions League final, where he scored that absolute wonder goal, probably taking the Puskas Award for this year, and rightly so. He's openly admitted his frustrations at the lack of game time at Madrid, and he's denying that he's been as injured as people are saying he has been. But you've also got to think about Zidane leaving is going to have a massive impact on that, because the new manager could come in, the board could come and speak to them, and they could say, look, yes, you wasn't playing so regular under Zinedine Zidane, but the new manager has been told, we want you to play, we want you to stay. Or Madrid might see him as a big transfer fee on the outside, and they can go, well, we get rid of Gareth Bale, who wants to leave, and we can bring somebody else in and have a massive big party like we always do, because Madrid, much like United, are in that sort of vibe where they've got to bring in top-class players all the time. That's what their fans demand. That's what their board demands. Perez is very similar to Woodward, where he likes the nice shiny cherry on top every transfer window. So I wouldn't be shocked to see the Bale deal still happen, but it might have been derailed with Zidane leaving Madrid. And we'll talk about Zidane leaving Madrid in a bit. So I think he might be more likely to want to stay and earn his place on the back of that, if he's truly happy in Madrid. There was some reports emerged last night that was saying that he would prefer to go to Bayern Munich because he don't think the intrusion from the press would be as bad in Germany as in England. That's aimed at you, son, bollocks talkers, and the Metro and the Mail. And I think they might have a point on that. But for family reasons, I don't think moving to another country is good for a British-based family. I think they're the sort of people that you could imagine always coming home, if you like, to the UK. And I think if he does, I think there's only United that are going to sign him in the Premier League. I don't think he's going Chelsea. I don't think he could go back to Spurs. I don't think they could afford his wages. Notoriously poor paying wages at Spurs. And I think United would be the ideal destination for him. Can he play on the right though? Or would he want to play on the left? That's the big question, because we've got enough players that can play on the left at the moment and not really enough players that play on the right. I see what you guys are saying in the comments. Akshay says 80 or 90 million is acceptable, but 120 or 130 would be ridiculous. Anders says Bale over Ronaldo. Ryan says, is that Dalot going to the World Cup with Portugal? Yeah, I don't know, actually. I don't think he is. I would have to check, but I don't think so. Bullshit bingo, that says Akshay. We need a better centre-back as much as we need a full-back. I would agree on that, Owen. That's a good comment. Jules says, get some players in who are willing to work hard and fit our system and affect something effectively on the pitch, not just sell shirts and underperform. See, I said this last night on Tomorrow's Transfers Today for Full-Time Devils. I want Jose to be happy. It's not about who we want as fans. It's not about who I want. It's about what Jose Mourinho wants. If Jose Mourinho goes, I need this specific type of player, this specific type of player, and this specific type of player. And I think it's more that sort of role than it is names. And if he can get those specific types of roles in, at the end of the window, he comes out and goes, I am happy. I got what I wanted. I can now let the team play in a manner I want them to play. Then I'm happy. Because that is, for me, what Manchester United need. It's all right, signing Sanchez and this guy and that guy, if Woodward's sanctioning these signings over Jose Mourinho. But we can't truly judge Jose Mourinho until we know that he's happy with the team. We know he wanted extra players in last summer's transfer window. We know he wanted Perisic. We know what we was trying 3 at the back and possibly 2 up front. Now, the signings that we made prior to not getting Perisic might have influenced how he was about to play. And if he'd have had that final piece of the jigsaw in mind, then maybe we would have played a whole different system. Maybe Lindelof was signed to be the ball-playing centre-half in a defensive 3, but we didn't feel we could play the defensive 3 with the system that we had. So all I want is Jose Mourinho to be happy with who we sign, and then we can find out whether he's good enough or not. Because if he gets everybody he wants and he's still playing the turgid sort of football like we saw last season, then he's not going to last. It's as simple as that. But if he gets everyone he wants, at least then there's an honest chance that he's going to go and do what we're hoping he can go and do. NT Look says we need a fucking leader. Absolutely right, my friend. Right then, the next one that we're going to be talking about then is Milinkovic Savic. So Milinkovic Savic, for those who've not really watched him, is a guy that gets goals. I think he's got the second highest amount of goals from outside the box in Serie A. He's an attacking, creative midfielder, but he's an absolute unit as well. And he's really just emerged on the scene very lately. You can see the quote from Leonardo at the bottom saying he'd be the first player that he'd buy if he was still working as a sporting director. He's definitely one of the most sought after players in the world at the moment. He has expressed a desire in the past to play for Real Madrid, but his agent's sort of rubbishing those quotes a little bit at the moment. He's already talked about as being a player upwards of 100 million, and that could grow based off World Cup performances, where Serbia might have a decent chance at doing something. Now, Milinkovic Savic, I think, could be Pogba's replacement. And I'm wondering if the fees that are talked about and the stalling that we're seeing, because there's definitely stalling, whether it's from our side or from Lazio's side, is about the fee. Because it sounds like from what I'm hearing, it sounds like we'd done what we needed to do with the player in terms of agreement, but the negotiation was ongoing with the club. They're talking about it wanting in excess of £100 million, not just euros. And they said they rejected a similar bid in August last year, August 29th last year. So I'm wondering how much of this is posturing. The way the the president of Lazio's come out and said it though. I don't think he can turn around and then accept a lower fee for him. He's really backed himself into the sort of corner where he gets the higher fee or he doesn't sell the player. I don't see he can say the things he said and then come out and just allow the player to go for whatever he goes for, 80 million or something like that. Jules says, did we have Savic's brother in the youth team before? Yes, we did. And I'm not sure why we didn't keep him. I think it might have been something to do with a work permit, but he was a goalkeeper, yeah. Is Savic like a Matic and Pogba? No, I say he's very like Pogba, to be honest. I think he's very like Pogba. Maybe he's less flashy than Pogba, and maybe that's what we need, someone who's a little bit more ruthless with what they're doing. But he's a very, very good player. Golovin to United, says Cameron. We did talk about this today before we went live, and we was thinking about including the Golovin one. But I think what's happened is they saw Mourinho going watching probably Arnautovic, possibly Arnautovic, and he was like, oh, let's just make something up about who else was in that team. And I think that's where it's come from, to be honest. Do I think Pogba will leave? I wouldn't be shocked if he does. Pogba swap, Matic plus money. I'm not sure Pogba would go to Lazio. We need a right winger, more like Leon Bailey, says Musa. I'm a big fan of Leon Bailey. I'd definitely love to see him at United. It was the work permit, says Karandeep. All right, beautiful. Goalkeeper Savic is class as well. He was good. I remember him being very good, yeah. Pogba to PSG, says Jerome. I wouldn't rule it out, mate. I really wouldn't. Right then, we're going to be talking about some of the other stuff that's happening around the world of football. And so obviously, Zinedine Zidane resigning and saying he wants a break. Now, I wonder if he's going to be doing the Pep Guardiola sort of style of sabbatical, where he disappears for a year and then he comes back and manages a team like a United. I would very much like that. Give Jose Mourinho another 12 months and then see what Zinedine Zidane can do with United going forward. I would be very, very excited if that was a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it's something I'd like to see happen. I think Jose's got another 12 months. I don't think there's an obvious place for Zidane to go now. Chelsea is one that I think could go for him. They've obviously come to some sort of agreement with Sarri, but there's problems over the compensation that's due for him. So I think, aside from Juventus, there's not really anywhere else I can see Zidane going. And could he go to Juventus and work within the budget that they would be expected to work within? Now, they've got some phenomenal scouting networks and stuff like that. The players that they pick up are fantastic, and they're able to stay extremely competitive in Serie A and very competitive in the Champions League because of that. Could Zidane take them to the next level? Could he attract more players? I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing him at United, though, to see what he could do. JTR says Savic will give Pogba a kick up the arse. He needs to work harder. Seems like the only competition for place will do that. It's not a bad shout. Voff says Zidane for France. There's a lot of people saying France, and also the Qatar national team has been rumoured as well. And 50 million a year is what they're talking about for Zidane at Qatar. 50 million. That's basically $1 million a week, isn't it? $1 million a week. Now, they're the kind of cats that have got that cash to throw around. Is that going to do his reputation as a manager any good? Absolutely not. It's going to take his win percentage right down, isn't it? I mean, 3 back-to-back Champions League, 2 was unprecedented, 3 is absolutely ridiculous and probably something that we're not going to see ever again. I'd like to see where Zidane goes next, and I hope it stays within competitive football, and I don't consider Qatar to be competitive football. So the last one that we're going to leave you guys with today then is Brazilian legend, original Ronaldo, one of my favourite footballers of all time, El Phenomenal. He's on the verge of returning to football, but he's buying a football club. And he's interested more in being an executive rather than coaching as well. So Globo, which is like the big network over there in Brazil, is saying he's in negotiations to purchase Spanish second division club Valladolid for 30 million euros. That's a bargain for a football club, isn't it? Think of all the assets that you get along with a football club. And then R9 as the president. It says, in January, the 41-year-old spoke of his intentions for the future in an interview. He said it'd be a great honour to preside over the Brazilian Football Federation. That's a bit of a lofty claim as well, isn't it? But before that, I want to have experience managing a great club. So he's probably looking at dipping his toe into management somewhere. I'm thinking about buying a team in the second division in Spain or in England. I want to do something innovative. I'm ready for that challenge. Now, he's probably got hundreds of millions in the bank, I would imagine. He's probably still getting paid a big fat wedge off Nike as well, to be honest. 30 million for him is drop in the ocean. Can he then finance a team to go and succeed in La Liga, get them promoted and get them into the first division, the Premier Division in Spain? That's going to be a big ask for him. I think Valladolid came 6th this year. It'd be very interesting to see if he could dip his toe into a championship side. The risk and the reward is probably a bit greater to come to a championship side than it would be for a Spanish side. But I'm going to keep my eye on that because I'm very interested in seeing what Ronaldo's going to do there. But that is enough for me today. I'm going to hit the comments and see what you guys are saying. Billy says, Poch to Real if they sign De Gea and Kane. Wow. I think he would quickly break his not winning things duck if he managed to get that. Are Valladolid in the Spanish second division? Yes. Gutted we never got to play 3-5-2 under Mourinho properly. Would we get Zidane even if Mourinho wins the titles this season? I'm not sure we're going to win the title, so, you know. I think R9 has ownership over a USA development team already. He did. In 2014, he became a part owner of Fort Lauderdale over in the MLS, or the North American Soccer League, I think it was. But he got rid of his, I think he had a 20% stake, and he got rid of that early last year. So he's no longer involved with Fort Lauderdale, but you're right, he did have a stake in them. Company is buying Stockport. Is that legit? Or is that a wind-up? It's quite funny. Frank Lampard as Derby boss. I think that's an interesting one. As someone said earlier in here before, that's the proper football manager style appointment, isn't it? And I love that. Right, listen, thank you guys for joining us. This is going to be here at Friday every 12 o'clock where, you know, I do what I usually do. I go through it. I give you the no bullshit opinion on what's happening with the transfers. But we're also going to be including loads more World Cup content on this channel. So please subscribe if you're new around here. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Laters. Welcome to the Steve. Your reviews, your football vlogs, your scout reports, your transfer talk, your youth reviews, your documentaries, and anything and everything revolving around football. I absolutely love this game. Do me a favour and subscribe. Thank you for watching.